upskill or get left behind? The new rules of professional survival. That is what we're talking about today on Pro Voice. My name is JT O'Donnell. I'm the founder and CEO of Work It Daily and the host of the show. And today I'm so lucky to have three of our Pro Voice experts with us, starting off with Ken Evans. He's a startup advisor and fractional product strategy exec for emerging technologies. I've got Shanoa Simpson back, AI and digital innovation executive. And last but not least, Lee Roquet, customer success executive and revenue operations expert. Welcome to the show, team. We're going to dive right into it with a little bit of a mic check. Ken, I'm going to kick it off with you. Can you please tell me in 20 words or less a time where you had realized your skills were no longer what they should be and you had to upskill? What'd you do and how'd you do it?
Well, in my industry, in tech, AI is just the latest of the skills adjustments. There's a long line of step up or step aside career inflections that happen in tech, and you have to stay current or get left behind. Historically, if you wanted to have a comfortable career, you stayed away from tech because change is inevitable. It's just one of the things that happens. But in this day and age where almost every job is tech dependent, now more than ever, we're all on the same hamster wheel of learning new skills. Or risk losing your job to someone who will.
Yeah, it's incredible. And you're right. I think AI, I always want to have a buzzer, like how early into the show are we going to use that dang word AI and how many times will we use it today? But to your point, that's the reality. Like there's no getting away from it. So true. Shanoa, what's your take?
Yeah, for me, it was ChatGPT. When it released, my son played with it like it was a game. But then we went on a tour of Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, and he pointed out, he's like, look, they're using it in the class for space flight operations. And the penny dropped for me. I was like, I better learn this now because if it's safe enough to use for space flight operations, this is going to be big.
I love it. And fun fact, my husband is an Embry-Riddle grad. That's awesome.
Really? Oh, wow. Small world.
Yeah, small world. Lee, what's your take?
Well, I can't shy away from, yes, AI, the impact. I think Ken's right. I mean, just 5 years ago, I think we were all kind of able to take time to kind of get in and see changes. But now it's like, it seems weekly that things are just so impactful. And for me, it was, I wanted to learn how to create custom GPT. So I've done that. I've built a coaching agent, so agentic agent, so that I can kind of put some data in and get it to help me and the team I'm working with. And then lastly, I wanted to vibe code. So I spent about 90 days, vibe coded an application and launched just a couple weeks ago my first solo application by myself because I want to be able to figure out how do I make my day easier, my team's day easier, and my customers' experience even better.
It's amazing. By the way, vibe code, the new hot term. I actually vibe coded an app that analyzes your LinkedIn profile and gives it a score. And I was blown away, right? Yeah. Folks, you got to lean in. You got to try it. All right. Clearly, everybody's mics are working just fine. So we're going to get into a little signal boost. This is the opportunity for each of you to share a book, a product, an idea, a concept, something that you think needs a shout out. So who should we pick on next? Why don't we go with Shanoa?
Okay. So I suppose, one of the latest products I've been using is just like Lee said, like it's a couple different actually. Like I think the vibe coding is really important and I've started to build on that. So I've kind of started doing my own project as well because I've never been into computer science. Like I'm not an engineer, but this is a whole new world. I think it's the next skill to learn is vibe coding. And I think everybody who wants to jump on that train should do it right now.
I agree. In fact, shout out, and not sponsored in any way, but the app I used to vibe code was Replit. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was a really, really cool and easy tool to use. So it's a good time. Everyone start vibe coding, please. It's a good idea. Lee, what's your thoughts?
First, I'd love to jump on that. I used Replit as well. I think just the one caveat, which I know we've talked about in the other podcast from the Pro Voice teams is, again, if you're vibe coding, please make sure that you're looking at security, governance, and any issues related to data privacy, because sometimes the vibe code systems aren't the best at making sure to cover your back. So just a caveat there. I think for me, Shanoa said it's perfectly, it's pick a couple of the things and get smart on it, build your own automations. For me, it was, Replit for vibe coding, but also just really jump into think about the problems you want to solve for your day. Like the last week I was like, God, how can I make my day easier? I've got a ton of people that I follow that I get newsletters from, and I love reading them, but they're overwhelming almost. So what I've done is basically put all of those newsletters into a file. I created an assistant from GPT-5, and now I get a summary every day of kind of the top things I should think about and use. And then I can think about how do I want to share that with my followers, or how can I get smarter on some automation? So I think being able to build your own automations with some of the LLMs that I use, ChatGPT, I also like Claude. And also automations, I think, are really important too. So make.com, NAN is always hard to say, looking at ways that people are actually starting to manage and organize data, get better at the data literacy aspects of that. So I think there's so much to focus on, but I think if you can just kind of, how do I want to make my day easier or my team's day easier, and pick one thing and just kind of build on that.
Yeah. And we've been naming a couple different platforms. And I think the important thing to note is they all have their own little pros to them, right? Claude's different than ChatGPT. And so anybody listening to the show, go check them all out, like test around and play with them, because they all have their, advantages. I think that's worth exploring. All right. Signal boost for you, Ken. What do you got?
For me, it's a steady diet of podcasts. I know that sounds kind of old school, but I've got 3 different areas of podcasts that I focus on. And if I miss one of those 3, it's like skipping leg day at the gym. I need to have that steady diet of all 3 of those. So one is purely new tech and best practices, especially in AI, but I hate to bring up that term again, but it's a very geeky podcast called Practical AI. And they're always talking about the new tools, what can be used, very, very honest pros and cons, what to look out for. So what both Shanoa and Lee mentioned, the regulations, the policy, the security, the privacy issues, the things that you have to watch out for. The second of those podcasts, it jumps around from a couple different sources, but new innovations in marketing tech and what's going on in that area. How can that be used to really help out people in that profession? And lastly, podcasts focus specifically on product management and product strategy. And I've got 2 in that bucket. One's called Lenny's Podcasts, which is just wonderful. And the other one is called Product Thinking by Melissa Perry. A lot of AI is incorporated in those podcasts because they talk about how they can be better at their profession and how you can accelerate analyzing various things and looking at product strategies and planning out product roadmaps. But it's more than just the AI element. It really is the process and the policy that goes into being top notch in those careers.
I'm so glad you brought up podcasts. I hope everybody decides they're going to listen to this one on a regular basis. But the reason I love it is, for me, podcasts made it possible to be in the classroom anywhere, anytime. Right? You can listen anywhere, anytime, learn. And to me, that's been incredible on any subject, right? When you think about what's available to us, which is incredible. Thank goodness for that, given how much disruption there is with AI and everything that's going on in the working world. So great stuff, folks. Listen, when we come back, it's Work It or Waste It, my favorite segment. We're going to talk about whether you should double down on your industry and skill experience or start becoming a jack or Jill of all trades right after this from our sponsor. This is an executive wake-up call. If you're a professional that's feeling overlooked and underutilized and quite frankly invisible, listen up, this one's for you. These days, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. You need visibility in order to attract the best opportunities. So if you feel like you've been stuck in the executive wasteland, you need to start using your Pro Voice. Your Pro Voice is a modern form of personal branding, and it's how you make sure that you get the best opportunities, raises and promotions, fractional work, and any other kind of opportunity that you're looking for in your latter half of your career. Executives today need to stand out. And if you don't understand how to do that with your Pro Voice, you are not going to get the respect and the opportunities you want and deserve. If you're interested in working directly with me and my team, you can do that with our Pro Voice platform. And right now, because you're listening to this podcast, I'm going to give you a discount. Pro Voice 50 will get you $50 a month off the monthly membership. Cancel at any time. And as a bonus, use the Pro Voice 50 and you will get a 30-minute one-on-one call with me to kick off your Pro Voice. And that is a $399 value. So what are you waiting for? It's time to use your Pro Voice to get the respect that you want and deserve, but more importantly, get the opportunities that you need. Sign up today at workitdaily.com, use Pro Voice 50, and I'll see you there. Okay, welcome back. It's time for Work It or Waste It. My 3 experts here are going to tell us whether you should absolutely double down on your industry and skill set right now and go niche, or whether you should broaden your horizons and become the jack or Jill of all trades. And Lee, we are going to pick on you first.
Yeah, no, and this question kept me up. I'm just thinking about it. Should you balance being uber focused on being really good at one thing, or should you be a generalist? And I think for me, I'm going to answer this. You kind of need to do both. And here's why. So the way that I look at this is if you can be really good and, of course, an expert in your space, let's say you're a product manager or you're in support in a company, of course, being best at what you do, utilizing AI, utilizing the tools around you just to be sharp. But I think where the generalist approach is really going to help people across anywhere you work in any role is really looking at how do I fit into the larger business success of the company that I work for. I mean, everyone's doing similar things. We're selling something, product or service. We got to get out there and message. We got to get to the right people. We got to onboard them or, sell the product. We got to then hopefully sell again. So understanding how business works, I think in that sense is being able to prompt better when you're focused on your role is really how I kind of look at this focused generalist is really understanding how do I help the business? How do I help my customer? How do I create a better prompt to solve a problem because I understand what sales, marketing, and finance is doing? So I would say, sharpen your business skills and of course, data literacy across an organization and spend time with finance, spend time with, your marketing and sales teams to make you a better support or product manager. So that's how I would answer that question.
Okay. So first of all, I bring the experts and I say pick one or the other. And in this episode, people love to go both. Right. And now we also like to create t-shirts and swag and posters. And now I see the t-shirt focused generalist.
Yes.
That is fantastic. Way to spin that. And I totally agree with you, but what a great way to kind of repackage that for sure. Nicely done. Way to slide under there.
Just not answer the question, but answer it. Yes.
It was great. Okay, let's jump to Shanoa.
So I think just to build on what Lee said, I think that maybe it's about 60% generalist and then 40%, specializing. So really, like with AI, you do want to be something of a generalist, but what that means is you don't want to be in finance and construction and beauty industry, like not that kind of a generalist, but more if you were like, say, in the finance industry, understanding the linkages is incredibly important because with AI, you'll have something to do the more specific tasks. So you won't need to know that specific detail in the same way that you used to, kind of like when computers took over certain tasks. You need to understand it enough to check and challenge, but that's a little bit higher level, like more of a leadership thing because you have to understand what the big picture is and then translate that into what you want the task to carry out, just like you would want a junior person to do. But you still need to kind of double down on what your industry specific skills are. So if you're in finance, clearly you have to take a lot of tests and get qualified just like you do in law. So understanding your specific skill set will be critical. You'll just be managing at a higher level is the way I would describe it.
Yeah, I love it. And I love that you broke it down 60-40. Percentages always help. It was great. Ken, come on, be contrarian here.
I can't, but all I can think of is in the back of my mind, the old Saturday Night Live skit of Shimmer as a floor wax and a dessert topping. It can be both things. So for me, especially in tech, it kind of depends on the role and the stage of the company. In the beginning, tech companies want utility players because you're going to wear a lot of hats. You're going to have to adjust to the task or the crisis of the day. And later stage, and people talk a lot about career development, especially in startups, eventually you're going to be hiring specialists to fill specific roles. And that being said, technology vendors, regulations, all these things, you have to have flexibility. They're always changing. So unless you change with that, unless you're flexible enough to use the and adapt that to the job that you need to get done at the end of the day, you're going to be pigeonholed. And as Lee said, you have to understand the bigger picture of your job, beyond your job, just beyond your department, and kind of like, what's the whole industry doing? What is my enterprise doing? And you're more likely to get promoted or at least stay employed if you understand the bigger picture. How are we taking care of the market? How are we taking care of the customers? What are my contributions to the bottom line, as opposed to my little box of, black box of what my job description said in the beginning? That's going to change. You just get comfortable with that change.
I love it. So here's what I take away from what you all said. Focus generalist. be agile, and pay attention to the business and where it's at and how things are moving, right? I think that's great. For me, I just tell people, look, stop thinking you're an employee. You're a business of one. And good businesses are self-directed. They pay attention to the market changes and they're responsible for themselves, right? And I think that's really what the three of you were bringing to light here quite nicely. So well done, well done. All right, let's get into in my industry. Each of you are in a very different industry. I'd love to hear from you what you think is critical right now or what you see working or what people should be focused on in your industry in terms of that upskilling. So Ken, let's bounce it back and start with you.
Okay. The new tools that we have today, again, I hate to keep saying it's AI, but we now have the ability to analyze presentations, business plans, video faster and better than ever. But the old adage is still playing in the back of my mind of garbage in and garbage out. So just being good at the AI tool of the day is not enough. You still need to understand the underlying business processes and the frailties of the business that you're in. Industry direction, regulatory issues, all the different things that are going to be minefields if you don't pay attention to them. Most importantly, you have to be customer focused. You have to understand the outcome of the customer and what you're trying to achieve. And if you can do that and change legacy systems while you're doing that, and not just digitize legacy systems, not just update them with the new tools, hoping to make it better because you plugged ChatGPT into an archaic and broken system. If you don't make those changes, those fundamental rip and replace changes, you're still going to get left behind whether you're using AI tools or not.
Yeah. As you were just talking out loud, I've been talking to a lot of organizations that made the decision to wipe out a lot of humans, literally referred to them as heads. I don't know if you saw recently, but the head of Salesforce, the CEO, Mark Benioff, literally was saying, I was able to cut 5,000 heads, or it was like, from 9,000 to whatever. And he kept using the term heads, not humans, heads, like in a podcast, and it just helps you see how much all these leaders are thinking, how can I wipe out quite frankly, the most expensive and most unreliable aspect of my business, right? And replace it with this. However, what we all know is going to happen, like you talked about, is they're going to put this stuff in place, figure out where things are broken, and still have to bring some of the people back in. Not all of the people, but some of the people back into when they realize this doesn't replace it altogether. So I'm glad that you talked about that focus. That was great stuff. Lee, what's your take on this?
I think Ken said it perfectly. I think, in the CS space and then looking at kind of revenue operations, and again, going back to business health. I mean, the places we work, and this is where the generalist concept is, like, understand how your business is working. Is it healthy? Are you profitable? How are you contributing to profitability? And I think, I think the luxury of having these big teams in these silos is going away. I mean, can we justify having a big onboarding team and a CS team and a support team? They're all very important functions, but I think when we start looking at the revenue operations flow, figuring out how to restructure teams, they're going to be smaller teams and utilize AI agents to do some of the busy work. But how do we elevate the value, not only for the individuals that are going to be making up these teams, but the output? Like Ken said, you got to be focused on what is the customer experience, the customer's job to be done, the value for them. Like, that has to be the focus. And so for me, I'm seeing people starting to question traditional roles. Our CSMs, I believe they need to be transitioning to be strategic value managers. They need to be telling better stories. They need to be elevating themselves out of the busy work. And I know I've been talking to some CTOs and things. They're getting pressure to reduce the tech stack. Less is more. How do we make ourselves efficient as possible, but super effective? And so, I think the idea of looking at the seat you have on your revenue journey, really putting together, and I'm a big fan of pods, and building the team structure around driving revenue success and output value for the customers and balancing that, but really understanding what's the business need, how do you contribute to it? And really kind of that shift is happening right now. And like you said, I mean, people are kind of looking at how do we replace humans, but people buy from people. People trust people. People, my word, people are helping people. That's really, I think, the outcome of this is how do we elevate the time for the teams that engage with customers to spend more time with customers on driving value.
Yeah. And I've been watching all of your work that you've been posting in this concept of pods. And I think one of the things that I take away from you is that, okay, so we're going to make smaller, more agile teams, but there's also a real opportunity there. People on smaller teams collaborate better together, get to spend more time together, right? And so if they can offload that busy work, be more powerful, they could do great things. We've all seen a smaller team that just does, unbelievable, unimaginable things because of that closeness that they're able to develop, as opposed to being on a very large team where that, dissemination of information and all its structure starts to break down that ability to be strong,
Yeah. And the research supports it, like small focused teams with a aligned purpose and incentivized in the right way are 2 to 3 times more effective than siloed teams that are just focused on their purpose or their outcome.
I agree. There's the opportunity. Shanoa, what's happening in your space?
So I think one of the great things about all of us talking is that it's perspective. And as we get towards AI, everybody thinks that you need to get rid of people, but what they forget is you need perspective in your industry. It's like, I don't know Ken's industry. I don't know Lee's industry as much. I know mine, but you can't just get rid of that knowledge and perspective. AI is only going to be as good as the people who shape it. And I really mean that, because I do see this, like I've worked in it before, where you talk about bringing on an AI tool. And the reason that they're talking about cutting so many people is because they want to finance that AI tool because it's incredibly expensive. So the ROI comes from getting rid of salaries, full-time employees, in order to finance that AI tool. And hopefully it reaches the productivity that you need in 2 to 3 years. The only problem with that, especially in the finance industry, is that it's heavily regulated. And your AI tools are only as good as your use cases and your data and your tech stack. And I think everybody forgets about that, because there's different kinds of AI. There's agentic AI, there's Gen AI, there's just automation. You can even do Six Sigma. Like, you have to break it down in terms of what your needs are and what the ROI would be at the end of the day. You don't just jump in and finance an agentic AI tool and say, this is going to work. Because I think as we've seen, like there's the MIT study that came out saying that 90+% of pilots have failed for AI. The reason is because people aren't doing proof of concept. They're not setting it up. And so, like in my industry, data is critical, absolutely critical. And I think the regulators understand that. Everybody knows they want their bank to understand it, right? Nobody wants any financial services, provider to not understand how important data is. And so that's where you need more people. So it's almost like, JT, you were talking about a shift, like everybody, like there's this shrinkage somewhere, but where is it growing? And I really think it's growing in data, because if you don't have good data and you're not putting it into the AI tool, you're going to get crap anyway, like, just to put it very bluntly. So, my industry, I think it's good that they are paying attention to the data. I think it's good that the regulators have oversight. I think, like we've seen, like TD Bank had $1 billion regulatory fine recently for money laundering. So there's still activities that are going on that have to be looked after. You can't just hand it off to AI and say it's going to work fine. And so I would just like to see like the governance and the data be really front and center for financial services.
Fantastic. Wow. That was so interesting to hear for all of the perspectives in all of your industries, folks. Great stuff. Listen, when we come back after the sponsor break, it is Power Pitch time, and they're each going to give us their philosophies on staying relevant. So stay tuned.
Visibility is everything in today's world, but getting noticed, that's tougher than ever. AI is making it easy for you to apply, to post, to connect, but it's also flooding the market with noise. Recruiters, potential clients, decision makers, they're swamped. They can't meet with everyone. And so many great professionals are getting overlooked every single day. That's why creating a strong professional brand is so important. But you might be thinking, I don't know where to begin. I don't know what content will work best. I don't even have the time to figure this all out. That's where McCoy comes in. You bring your experience and your goals, and McCoy AI will turn them into clear, compelling messages that make people pay attention. It helps you find the words, the proof, the stories that show your value. In minutes, you'll have short, powerful content for your McCoy Reel, your evidence on video backed by real results. It's designed to grab attention fast and to leave the right impression. You'll know that people are watching, and you'll know that your message is landing. All in one simple link, easy to share, easy to open, impossible to ignore. No guessing, no blank page, no wasting time, just a smarter, faster way for you to show your value. McCoy is free, but with McCoy Pro, you can create targeted reels for specific roles, clients, and audiences. Build your presence, grow your influence, land that next big opportunity. McCoy helps people get you in seconds. Download today from the App Store and Google Play.
Okay, we're back. It's time for Power Pitch. And this is the opportunity for each of you to give us your personal philosophies on staying professionally relevant in what I think is one of the most chaotic times I've seen in my 20 plus years in this industry. So I'm going to pick on you first, Lee. Give us your philosophy. What's your take?
My take is, and I think, I kind of mentioned a little bit of this too in the last segment, but it was, when you look back over the last 10 or 15 years, I mean, data is still the most, data is king when it comes to running your business, the insights, what you can do. And a lot of the companies that I've been able to kind of work with and be part of, people have a junk show when it comes to their data. It's still siloed. It's still too much. They don't have clarity. They don't have drivable insights to make business decisions. So just because we have AI, which is great, garbage in, garbage out, right? So I think, being able to really understand and put a priority on understanding your data. Is it governed? Where is it coming from? Can you trust it? Is it rolling up to visually drive, managed insights for your organization is critically important. And then once you have that stability, then of course you can put your AI models on it and drive efficiency and rebuild your teams and stuff. So, I think that's probably the number one thing is like, you have such a great, and I've worked with a company just a couple months ago they were struggling with their transition and they had spent so much great time building their knowledge base and all of their SOPs, and they had years of data. I'm like, you guys are sitting on a gold mine. Just now build, some small agent test groups and you reuse that content and build that model. So I think that piece is so important. But the next piece is like within, and we talked a little bit about this as being the generalist within your organization, and start small, but be your own pro voicer within your organization. Be your micro influencer of change. Like start groups, start telling the story of what your team's doing, how you're testing and playing with. Get a culture of change management that's embracing that so that you're part of the solution, not sitting there waiting to get downsized or whatever. And then turn that out to tell a better story to your customers. Customers, the cost of acquisition is crazy high. People, I mean, we're all consumers. I'm tired of getting spammed to death from people trying to sell me something. I want to actually have a human relationship with someone that I trust. I want loyalty and I want to build a value outcome for, what I'm trying to invest in. That's what customers want. So the human engagement, understanding the technology and having trust in the data, but then getting back to telling a great value story over and over, internally, externally, I think is just going to be so important for the future. So
I love it. I love that you mentioned that everybody should be their own pro voice. Our tagline is it's not who you know, it's who knows you, right? That these days it's all about visibility is what you're talking about. Those stories create visibility, create trust, create recognition, create opportunity, right? And so I love that. That's fantastic. Shanoa, let's jump over to you. What's your philosophy?
So especially in this world of advanced technology, whether it's AI or anything else coming down the line, social media, there's two words, reverse mentorship. And I think people need to get really used to it because I think that for a long time, it's always been, okay, you work your way through the system, you have a mentor or you have a sponsor that kind of helps you get through that system and teaches you, basically it's like an apprenticeship. Now, young people are very savvy. They're inventing new ways of doing things. They think completely differently. Like my son teaches me every day. Like I definitely rely on him to learn, and you have to be curious, but you have to be open to receiving too. So I feel like reverse mentorship where, maybe you do have experience in some areas, but you have to be willing to be mentored by somebody who's younger that maybe has different ideas and different ways of thinking, because that's the future and that's how it's going to change.
I'm so excited you talked about this because in the career coaching world, we're just constantly reminding people, I know you're tired. This is what a lot of seasoned professionals say. I'm tired. I don't feel like I want to learn anymore. And I certainly don't want to learn it from a 22-year-old, But the reality is, okay, or your alternative is to be out of work. I think that's what people just have to start to understand. You have to, reverse mentorship was such a great word. You have to get comfortable with who can coach you regardless of their age. If they've got knowledge to share, you've got to learn, which is great. Super stuff. All right, Ken, what's your philosophy? Give it to us.
I would normally say be a skeptic, but based on what both Lee and Shanoa just said, it really is about be curious. I understand what's out there that's going to be driving your business and hopefully driving your career. So stay customer focused, be obsessed with that customer experience and deliver on that. Be market focused and not technology driven. If you rely too much on the technology, it will disappoint. Absolutely. Whether it's hallucinations through AI, just bad data that no one really scrutinized as well as they should have. Just, any number of opportunities where the systems will let you down. If you stay curious, you'll be looking for better solutions. You'll be looking for building better processes than the legacy systems that you inherited from everyone that was in that job before you. And at the end of the day, again, you want to be measured by your contributions to the bottom line. Make sure that, you are part of that balance sheet. It's got to be more than just the certifications that you amass on your LinkedIn profile. We need to be seen by the bigger corporation as what we're doing. And that means learning from a lot of different things, learning from a lot of different people. So, I'll just leave it with that mic drop of curiosity is king.
Yeah. And I think what I'm hearing from you loud and clear and across all of you is that we say this all the time. AI won't take your job. The person that learns how to use AI to do a better job will take your job, right? And that's clearly what I'm hearing from all of you is like, there's an opportunity here to use this AI and your incredible knowledge to make an impact. Pay attention, right? Pay attention, get curious, lean in. Great stuff. All right. It is time for the official mic drop moment. And here's what I'm going to let each one of you do. Please tell this audience the one thing they have to walk away knowing and understanding about this topic today. And why don't we come right back at you and put you in the hot seat, Ken?
Okay. Experiment like crazy. Just try new stuff. There's no shortage of new tools to try. They're not all going to deliver, but you need to understand the frailties of the system. You need to test new things. So see what tools and techniques work best for you, but realize that next generation of tools is going to change the playing field once again. So you always have to stay on top of your game. You got to be on your toes and realize, back to what Lee was saying, there will always be bad data. There will always be bad behavior of the technology, not the people. But there will be things that are shortcomings, and you need to learn to work around them. Again, one of the podcasts that I listen to, Practical AI, talks about quizzing through prompting the system and saying, of the answers you're going to give me, what are you least confident in what you're telling me? So try to get ahead of those hallucinations and say, if you're going to give me an answer, don't gaslight me. Tell me where you are weak on data. Tell me where you have low confidence in what you're going to return to me so that I can then improve the overall system. So get great at iteration. Never get enamored with any one technology or any one technology vendor, because tomorrow it's all going to change.
Yeah. And the upside is you can be super blunt and its feelings aren't hurt.
Well,
right?
So far, you don't know what's going to happen in the future.
Might want to be careful. Still want to be polite. Yeah.
Yes. Say please and thank you to your AI, because you never know.
Always.
You never know. Mic drop. Love it. Okay, let's jump over to Shanoa.
Yeah, I think 2 words again, and that's critical thinking. There's a lot of really good stories out there, and there's a lot of really good promises. I've heard them. I've probably, been involved in some of them before. And I think you have to really step back and say, what's right for me? What's right for my industry? And how do I get people together to think about this? Because it's great to experiment, just like Ken said, you can't wait. You have to get into this stuff, but don't forget that having a conversation about it and thinking through the process, maybe doing an assessment, is a good step too, just because depending on what industry you're in, you're going to have to mitigate some risks, and you have to decide how much you're willing to take on in terms of a risk in order to achieve that goal.
Love it. Yeah. Great caution. Excellent mic drop. All right. The pressure's on, Lee.
Okay, God, that was a hard one to follow. I would say, just kind of going on the same theme, don't be lazy. I think it's been proven. There's been some really good studies out there that AI can actually make you less smart. And so, put some things in some process and some things in to challenge yourself. So don't just take it, verbatim when you put in, a response from GPT and it gets it back, because it will tell you you're awesome, but turn it around. Ask it. For example, I was helping someone with a board deck the other day, and I put it into GPT and said, okay, pretend you're an investor that doesn't want to invest in this. Tell me all the things that you would poke holes in and why. And until we could answer all those questions, the board deck wasn't ready. And so being able to flip it around and actually have it be the nice person that you're maybe, working with. Like, so don't be lazy in the sense of just assuming everything you put in is right, because they're not. It's really wrong. But use the tools to make yourself smarter and challenge your thesis without just letting AI do all the work for you. And I think, again, going back to some of the stuff we've talked about is like really become that expert generalist on your business, on the customer experience, on the regulations with finance. Like, don't just use the tools to get out of work. Like, now's the time to elevate yourself, challenge yourself, and use the tools to challenge you.
Love it. So we need the Focus Generalist t-shirt and now the Don't Be Lazy t-shirt. Got it.
Yes. On the back. On the back is, I believe. Yeah.
This was such an amazing episode, folks. All of these Pro Voicers are on subs.com, our partner. You can have each one of these individuals in your back pocket for the cost of a cup of coffee each month, where they will direct and privately message you so you can get expert advice from them when you need it. So please check them all out on Subs. You will not be disappointed. Thank you so much for your time today, folks. Can't wait for you to come back. Remember, if you want to win, you've got to work it daily. And more importantly, if you want to be seen, heard, and in demand, you've got to use your Pro Voice.